The atmosphere inside the arena is not electric, it's suffocating. It is the kind of silence that feels heavy, the air thick with an unresolved tension that has been building for the last 20 minutes. In the center of the ring stands Rhea Ripley, the undisputed ruler of the division, her championship draped over her shoulder like a pelt. She isn't gloating. She isn't shouting catchphrases. She is simply staring at the entrance ramp, daring anyone from the locker room to answer her open challenge. The crowd in Chicago, usually rowdy and prone to hijacking shows with chants, is uncharacteristically hushed. They are waiting for a savior who doesn't exist, resigned to the fact that Ripley has systematically dismantled every viable contender on the roster over the last 18 months. Michael Cole's voice on commentary is low, almost apologetic as he fills the dead air. He talks about the dominance, the inevitability of Ripley's reign, how the Netflix era of WWE has seemingly hit a wall of absolute authoritarian control. Beside him, Corey Graves doesn't offer his usual snark. Instead, he sounds genuinely concerned. Noting that General Manager Adam Pearce has been frantically making calls backstage, but nobody is picking up, the camera cuts to a wide shot of the crowd. There are no signs being waved. There is just a sea of faces looking between the empty stage and the Titantron, waiting for a graphic, a logo, or a sound that will signal the next victim. Ripley raises the microphone, her black lipstick smeared slightly, her eyes manic. She doesn't speak immediately. She lets the microphone hover near her mouth, the feedback loop creating a high-pitched whine that makes the audience wince. When she finally speaks, her voice is a whisper that echoes through the silence. "Is there no one left?" she asks, the question hanging in the air like smoke. "I have burned this division to ash. I've retired your heroes. I have broken your legends. There is no one coming to save you." The camera zooms in on her face, capturing the genuine boredom in her eyes. This isn't a heel trying to get heat. This is a conqueror who has run out of worlds to conquer. Suddenly, the house lights flicker. It's not the dramatic blackout of a supernatural character, nor the pyrotechnic explosion of a superstar entrance. It looks like a technical failure. The massive LED boards skirting the ring blink off, plunging the ringside area into semi-darkness. The crowd murmurs, unsure if this is part of the show or a legitimate malfunction. A low, distorted hum begins to vibrate through the arena speakers, sounding less like music and more like a corrupted audio file. Ripley lowers her title, her brow furrowing in genuine confusion. She looks toward the timekeeper's area, breaking character for a split second to mouth, "What is that?" The hum grows louder, an uncomfortable dissonant frequency that grates on the nerves. The dissonance cuts out abruptly, replaced by a single sharp sound, the screech of a microphone feedback loop amplified to a deafening level. Then, silence returns, heavier than before. No Celtic rock, no steam jets. The man graphic on the Titantron, just a single spotlight snapping on at the top of the stage, illuminating a figure standing with their back to the ring. The figure is wearing a long, distressed leather trench coat that looks like it has seen years of wear. The crowd is paralyzed. They don't cheer because they don't recognize the silhouette immediately. It lacks the bright orange hair or the steampunk goggles of the past. This figure is motionless, head bowed, emanating a cold, jagged energy that feels entirely foreign to the current product. Slowly, the figure turns. The giant screen behind them remains black, offering no context. As the figure steps into the light, a collective gasp ripples through the arena, not a pop, but a shockwave of disbelief. It is Becky Lynch, but she looks different. Her hair is a darker, natural brown, unstyled and wild. Her face is gaunt, her eyes devoid of the spark and charisma that once defined big-time Becks. She looks tired. She looks dangerous. She walks down the ramp without music, her boots thudding against the metal with a rhythmic, menacing cadence. The camera tracks her from a low angle, making her look like a giant, while the commentary team remains dead silent, stunned into professional paralysis. Cole finally breaks the silence, his voice trembling. It can't be. He doesn't scream it. He whispers it, mirroring the confusion of the millions watching at home. This isn't a triumphant return. It feels like an invasion. Becky ignores the fans reaching out over the barricades. She doesn't slap hands. She doesn't acknowledge the Becky. Chants that are starting to bubble up from the stunned silence. Her focus is locked entirely on Rhea Ripley. Intensity in her eyes is terrifying. It's not the fire of a competitor, but the cold void of someone who has nothing left to lose. She looks like someone who has spent the last 2 years in a wilderness, stripping away every layer of the character she used to be. Ripley, usually unflappable, takes a half step back. It is a subtle movement, but the camera catches it. The champion clutches her belt tighter, her knuckles turning white. Becky reaches the steel steps and stops. She doesn't run up them. She walks slowly, deliberately, as if every step is a burden she is choosing to carry. She wipes her feet on the apron, a gesture of utter disrespect before stepping through the ropes. The crowd noise has shifted from shock to a low, nervous buzz. They sense that this isn't a wrestling match setup. This feels like a legitimate, unscripted confrontation between two women who were never supposed to be in the same room again. Inside the ring, the size difference is apparent, but the presence difference is what dominates the frame. Ripley towers physically, but Lynch feels denser, like a collapsing star, absorbing the light around her. They stand nose-tunes in the center of the canvas. The referee, sensing the volatility, slowly backs away into the corner, signaling for security to be on standby. Becky still hasn't blinked. The camera circles them, capturing the sweat on Ripley's forehead and the absolute dryness of Becky's. Lynch reaches out, not to strike, but to touch the Women's World Championship resting on Ripley's shoulder. Her fingers brush the gold plating, and the arena goes silent again, straining to hear what isn't being said. "You kept it warm," Becky says, her voice unamplified, but picked up by the ringside parabolic microphones. It's a raw, scratchy sound. Ripley bristles, slapping Becky's hand away violently. "I buried you," Ripley snarls, her voice cracking with a mix of rage and adrenaline. "I buried your legacy. You should have stayed gone, Rebecca." The use of her real name snaps something in the air. The crowd oohs, sensing the fourth wall crumbling. Becky doesn't flinch. She slowly tilts her head, a small, sad smile playing on her lips, the first emotion she has shown since walking out. "You didn't bury anything," Becky whispers, leaning in closer. "You just built a castle on a graveyard. The ghosts are hungry." The physical explosion happens without a bell. Ripley swings a clothesline, but Becky ducks with a fluidity that belies her time away. Lynch counters, not with a wrestling move, but with a stiff open palm strike to Ripley's throat. The sound is sickeningly loud. Ripley gags, stumbling back, clutching her neck. This isn't the technical wrestling of 2024. This is a street fight. Becky tackles her, driving her into the turnbuckle with a feral intensity. She rains down punches, messy, uncoordinated, desperate punches that look more like a assault than a spot. The crowd is screaming now, a chaotic mix of cheers and genuine concern. Security rushes the ring, black shirts flooding the canvas. Becky doesn't stop. She fights off the first guard, tossing him through the ropes. She bites the hand of the second. It takes 5 security guards to pry her off Ripley. Even as they drag her back, Becky's eyes never leave the champion. She isn't shouting threats. She is laughing, a quiet, breathless laugh that is far more disturbing than any scream. Ripley is in the corner, checking her lip for blood, looking at Lynch with a new expression. Fear, not fear of losing a match, but fear of the chaos that has just re-entered her world. The segment ends not with a catchphrase, but with Becky breaking free of one arm and pointing a single trembling finger at the sign for WrestleMania, her eyes wide and unblinking. The camera cuts backstage immediately, bypassing the usual commercial break, reinforcing the live and unscripted feel of the broadcast. We are in the gorilla position, usually a place of order, now a scene of absolute frantic energy. Triple H is visible in the background, shouting into a headset, his face red. Producers are running past the camera with towels and water. The handheld camera shakes as it follows the security team dragging Becky Lynch through the curtain. She isn't fighting them anymore. She is limp, allowing herself to be escorted, her chest heaving. The other wrestlers lining the hallway, faces like Bianca Belair, Tiffany Stratton, and Braun Breaker, are pressed against the walls, staring in silence. There is no welcome back hug. There are no smiles. The locker room looks terrified. The narrative conveyed here is that Becky didn't tell anyone she was coming. This wasn't on the run sheet. We hear Liv Morgan whisper to a producer, "I thought she was done. I thought she retired." The reality of the situation settles in. This disrupts everything. Every storyline, every title shot, every politicking maneuver planned for the road to WrestleMania has just been incinerated by the arrival of a wild card. Becky is pushed into a private room, and the door is slammed shut. 2 security guards are posted outside. The camera lingers on the door, the nameplate blank. Commentary returns. breathless. Graves is checking his phone on air, reading tweets from wrestling journalists who are just as confused as he is. "We are getting word," Cole says, pressing his hand to his earpiece, "that security is being doubled at the arena exits. We don't know if Becky Lynch has been arrested or suspended. We don't know if she is even under contract. This blurs the lines of reality perfectly." The show continues, but the energy has shifted. The next match, a mid-card tag team bout, suffers because the crowd is chanting "We want Becky" the entire time. The oxygen has been sucked out of the building. Backstage, a reporter tries to get a word with Seth Rollins, who is walking briskly toward the exit with his bags packed. He ignores the microphone, his face a mask of stone. He doesn't look like a supportive husband. He looks like a man who knows a storm has just made landfall, and he needs to get home. This subtle detail adds a layer of personal stakes. Is this a rogue move? Is there marital tension? The script implies that Becky's return comes at a high personal cost, adding weight to her earlier nothing-left-to-lose demeanor. The chapter ends with a shot of Adam Pearce standing outside Becky's room, taking a deep breath before reaching for the handle, looking like a man about to walk into a lion's den. The show goes off the air. But the video script transitions to a post-show style visual black screen with white text, narrated by a voice that sounds less like a hype man and more like a documentarian. Images flash on the screen. Grainy fan-cam footage of Becky leaving the arena in a black SUV, ignoring the paparazzi. Screenshots of social media trending topics show hashtag the man and hashtag she is back topping global charts. But the sentiment isn't just excitement, it's worry. Headlines from ESPN and frantic YouTube thumbnails flash by asking the same question: why now? The intense adrenaline of the return has faded, replaced by a melancholic realization of what this actually means for the character and the person. The narration reflects on the cost of greatness. It reminds the viewer that the last time we saw Becky Lynch, she was burnt out, giving her body and soul to an industry that moves on instantly. Her return isn't a victory lap, it's a relapse. The script posits that she couldn't stay away because the applause is a drug she never kicked. We see a slow-motion replay of that moment in the ring, the way she looked at the title belt. It wasn't desire, it was addiction. She didn't come back to save the division. She came back because she doesn't know who she is without the war. The final scene is a static shot of the empty arena, hours after the show. The ring crew is disassembling the canvas. In the center of the stripped ring, a single object has been left behind: Becky's old steampunk goggles, placed deliberately in the center of the mat. It is a symbol that the old Becky is dead. The man who made jokes and sold t-shirts is gone. The woman who returned is something sharper, harder, and infinitely more tragic. The screen fades to black, leaving the viewer with a lingering, uncomfortable thought. We always ask for our heroes to return, to come back and entertain us one more time. But we rarely ask what it costs them to do it. Becky Lynch is back in 2026, but looking at the hollowness in her eyes, you have to wonder, is this a return, or is this a tragedy unfolding in real time? The video ends not with a request to like and subscribe, but with utter silence, holding the black screen for 5 full seconds, forcing the viewer to sit with the weight of the story.